Yo guys, welcome to some Russian cash. We've got 3 tables of 100, these 3, and this is 1 table of 50. Going to be chatting through some spots, some ideas, talking about different ways to beat these pools, see what we can come up with. And unfortunately just checking down here with the ace queen. I really don't think there's much value in betting on this river. He's going to have lots of hands that are going to call. Like, you can go for a big bet option, but he's going to have lots of spades that are checking, and then the small bet rarely works. Like, you're just going to get called by so much. There are some combos that we'll do it with, but probably in a slightly different line. King 10, we flatted after the button flat. And we're going to go for a raise on this board. So on these like 10 jack queen high boards against small bets, we're just going to do like lots of raising, basically with hands that can turn equity. Because you're just going to see so many folds. Opponents stick to this like 1/3 c bet that they've heard about with a lot of their range, and a lot of it's going to be folding to any sort of aggression. So we're going to have some good hands there, but a lot of hands that can just raise and turn some equity, specifically versus like smaller bets on those boards. Not defending these. We pick up the queen's bottom left. And we're just going to defend any 2 for a min size. I think we have a post flop edge. And the queens, I'm actually just going to call here. The raise kind of makes our hand so obvious. And I think Mr. Grouse can just shove over the top. He folds. At least our hand is still disguised when we call against ace, ace, please. And we'll do the min raise here. Calling bottom left. Nothing but call here. Unfortunate to see the aces. It is what it is. Obviously, he's going to have some different hands here, guys. He won't always have the aces. And just using a lot of the min sizes as well. People aren't defending it. One thing is that there's lots of rake in these games, so I think opening for the min size is preferable, but also people are just super nitty for one reason or another. Well, I guess because the rake is high and because they're in a Zoom format. So I think there's a lot to be said for like the min sizes. Wavering Move says, good luck, bud. Thank you. Go for the 3-bet top right. I'm going to start off with a c-bet. And we're going to start off with a c-bet bottom right as well. And on the 9 of clubs, it's not a card we're going to be barreling. And here, with the ace king of hearts, I'm going to go for a check shove. Our opponent's going to call lots of hands on the flop, and they're also going to stab at a decent frequency on the turn. The nice thing about this check is it gives us some disguised flushes on the river. And it means that we can shove over some bets as well. And just check now. 9-7 gets lucky. Given the check back timing of the turn, I don't think this guy ever has. Unfortunately, we see 4s here. Let's start with a small bet once checked to bottom left. Ace on the turn is pretty cool. Half pot will fold. It's rarely a bluff from our opponent. Rarely a bluff, unfortunately. And we're going to bet this ace-3 on the turn against hands. And we'll squeeze up the ace-jack here. Top left. Against two opponents, it works quite well. Our hand is just strong enough to do it. Queens will raise. And we're just going to start with a c-bet on queen 5-4. So we do. Let's start with a c-bet. Take it down. Pretty nice. And check. There's not much betting for us here. We're just going to check this hand. Going to definitely be betting on some turns. Not the best flop for queens. Bet on the turn here. Going to start check bottom left after we 3-bet pre. Check here. And just give up now. Yep. So like when this flush draw misses, he's going to call a lot. Against the big bet, we still got a call one. Would love to have a club, but it's okay. Our opponent's going to have plenty of bluffs. Check. With the 5-4 with some back doors. Check here. And with ace-9, we're definitely going to be calling. Ace-queen against the double barrel. Fold. Fold here. This is rarely a bluff from Yab. And the queens will check. So like in these spots where they're just not balanced at all, we don't have to be defending like the correct frequency. So that's like the misconception, right? The misconception is that you have to defend like a certain proportion of your range. But against opponents who aren't balanced, that doesn't make any sense. So we have to think about the spots where they are balanced and the spots where they're not, or where we presume they're balanced and where we presume they're not. Half pot from this guy. Snap call. And on ace-5 deuce here, we just small bet always. Unfortunate turn with the king. It's very bad for our hand, and he just goes half. Yeah, we just need cleaner runouts. Like there's nothing we can do when the runouts come this poorly. We get called by Mammonic, and we're just going to be checking on the turn. Go for a fast check. It looks more like we just don't have anything, and we will be shoving the river. I'm expecting him to call hands like ace-queen if he ever has them, and we might even get heroed by some other hands as well. Always going to get involved with the suited hands in these splash pots. And Momonic calls the king's pre. Okay. Folding to the big size. Turning 2 pair top right against Linus. Just going to be a hand that we're going to check. This is a spot where, in theory, it would be betting at a decent frequency, but in reality, you just don't get calls from enough worse hands, and he's going to trap some flushy stuff. Now on the river, when everything misses, we will go large. I think he's going to call with all of his ace-x, and I don't think he has that many 2 pairs that slow play. Queen high makes the call. Okay. So this hand is blocking our bluffs. Okay, I mean, if he's calling that wide, then that's hilarious. Ace-Jack goes 3-bet pre. And on Jack-9 deuce, going to start off with a small c-bet. And mainly blind versus blind, we're just going to do the small c-bet strategy. There can be some big bets here, but I think small c-bet performs well. So we will stick to that. Good turn card. Going to go for a check raise with the 9-7. And a little bit worried bottom right once we get raised. It's a very strong play. Obviously Ace-Jack doing nothing but calling. And we do get the bet that we're after here. We're going to raise big with the 2 flush draws on board. Going up to 25, hoping for a clean river that we can shove. Going to see lots of folds here though. Our opponent bets 35. See the fold. Clicking call. So we lose to 9s here, basically. We lose to 9s and we lose to queens. In theory, Ace-Jack will never fold. But in reality, they're just not going to be check raising and bluffing enough. Ten-8 gets there. He has 9s. Does he have many bluffs? So this is like one of the best calling hands. Just going to let it go. So yeah, that hand it should obviously call 3 times in theory, but in practice, the check raise bet is pretty nutted from recreational players. So yeah, we'll let it go. Nice hand to that guy. The only thing there is he's going to have some hands like King Queen and Queen 10 that might play that way. But yeah, more often than not, he's just going to have 9s. Sounds crazy, but it's not until you get into those spots and you just cool down and see the nuts every time that you realize the way that these guys think about the game. And it's like pretty scary. It just feels like you're always folding, but this guy goes 9 on the turn. With this 2 pair, we're just going to call. This is a strong line from our friend. And the ace is a really bad river. Opponent checks. And we're just going to check now. It's very hard for us to get called by worse. And he's going to have lots of bluffs. Ace, king, top right. We're going to squeeze up and go slightly bigger. We're deep. And we're out of position to both. We have ace, king, kings, and kings. And we see the fast raise. This hand just goes in, guys. I don't know how capable this guy is, but very standard all in with ace, king. Pretty scary, but he does have it. Or he does have the bluff, sorry. And we're going to raise with the kings down here. Against Tarp, who calls fast. Scary to see the raise. Like again, when you see this action from these players, like it's super strong. But there's just not a lot we can do with this hand, so we're going to click call. Like we're not ever going to fold this combo versus the raise, but you should just be wary of what these guys are doing. Like it is super nutted. Like these plays are super nutted. They just don't have the combo of hands that they need to, or like start small c-bet. We're going to have to call king 7 on the turn. One of our best calling hands. But just wary that it's hard for him to have many bluffs once he calls on the flop because they just fold so much. They don't float enough hands to have many bluffs on the turn. He does have 4 deuce. And 10-8. This is going to be a perfect raise candidate. So we will do that versus the c-bet. And our opponent leads out here on the king. We'll fold. Once we check flop, king X is going to be a big portion of our range. Below, raises again. I think with the double gut shot and the flush draw, I'm going to go for the re-raise. Maybe I can call. I mean, re-raising and calling is fine. He's going to have some dominating flush draws. I'm going to go for the call, guys. That's a really bad turn. So if we think of a lot of his, when we have this combo especially, a lot of his re-raising range is going to be 2 pairs and sets. So we fold now. And you just got to think, like, how many times in this spot have you seen them go for a bluff 3-bet, you know? It is so infrequent. When you have big hands, it can feel really hard to fold, but you actually consider what their range is and the way that these guys play the game. They're just not going to have the number of hands that they need to. Going to call the ace-3 against the recreational here. Pretty loose again, but I think we have post-flop edge. We needed this flop top right. And he does bet 5, and we will fold. Nice hand, poker nerve. Picking up the deuces, going to min open. Flop a deuce, bottom right. Going to start off with a c-bet. We're just going to stick with the same size that we would use with all of our other hands on these kind of boards. And we do see the fast raise from PPPPZ. And there's kind of 2 thought processes here, but really, I just think he has if we get it in against 4s or 8s, then we get it in against 4s or 8s. But I think he has loads of strong hands here with lots of equity that he's not going to fold. So I'm going to re-raise this. Not ideal, because he's going to have, like, obviously the higher sets, but he's also going to have combo draws. And like I say, very strong hands that he just can't fold. Let's hope it's the latter, not 4s and 8s. 8-9 goes for it. Don't expect to see that. We turn him dead. So if you're against an opponent who is actually bluff raising, then the deuces becomes a better call, not a re-raise. But when you're against a range of hands that is like so equity driven, like they just don't bluff enough, they don't bluff raise enough, then we kind of want to 3-bet in those spots. And like these are some of the adjustments that I would recommend. Just thinking about the sort of hands that they have in their range, the hands that they actually show down with. And we're going to play out these hands, guys, and then call it a session. Go for a small bet on the river. I wonder if this guy ever bluffs this. Maybe he does. I'm going to go for a check raise. Nope. It's hard to get value. Wow, he flats jack. So this is something that we'll note. MP flat, jack, jack. Under the gun. This guy clicks a lot of buttons, like he just bets at a very high frequency. Just playing some hands with him. That's what I've noticed. Just a lot of betting. He shouldn't have much AX in his range. So small bet, half pot, and then pot on the river. Go for the fold. Nice hand. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully I will see you on the next one. Leave a comment down below as to what you would like to see next.